Hello everyone, welcome back to the Keep Productive YouTube channel. Today, very lucky to be joined by Ian Small, the Evernote CEO. How are you doing, Ian?
I'm great, thank you.
Yeah, brilliant. And you got some good backgrounds we were just talking about. So
one of the things you do in pandemic times is you have good Zoom backgrounds, so it's nice to be able to bring them to your cast.
I need some because I've just got a messy nursery, so it's just not working out.
But that's also pandemic times for you.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Yeah, you guys have been pretty busy this last week with the iOS release. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more what's been going on in terms of that side of stuff.
So we brought our first new client to market over the last few days at this point. As you know, that's a process we set out on like a long time ago now, probably more than 18 months, when we decided that the situation that Evernote was in was sort of best described by the idea of being stuck. And everything that had really gotten us to the place we were was now starting to get in our way, and we just couldn't ship new features. We couldn't ship at any velocity, etc. And so we decided that we should tackle the fundamental problems, which was sort of combination of product debt and technical debt that had built up over the years, and build a new version of Evernote from the ground up. And so that's what we've been doing. And last week we put the first version on iOS out into market. Obviously, you know, dipping our toes in the water. We're out at this point as we're doing this to the first couple of 100,000 users and taking a look at how the release is doing in market, you know, metrics, you know, bug reports, all the things that you do when you roll out a piece of software on iOS.
Brilliant. That's exciting times. And when do you guys, because obviously it took like 18 months, maybe you can give us a bit of like an idea of what that sort of period of time was like. Were you, obviously you were sharing behind the scenes, but were you collecting insights from the community? And yeah, maybe you could share a bit.
Well, yeah, I think we had sort of problems at multiple levels in our stack that we need to deal with. I've been pretty open with the community talking about the fact that, you know, we had 5 different products across 5 different devices. And when we say different products, they were all called Evernote, but they often looked different. They had different feature sets, and they shared virtually no code. And so that's not a great place to be. It means every time you build a feature, you have to build it 5 times. It means the features get built differently on the different products. It means that as a user, you don't have a sense of, oh, I'm in Evernote and I know where things will be and I know how things will work. Yeah. I always know that, oh, even if I'm going from like a little tiny phone to a huge, you know, computer in my house, I know that this feature will be over here. And if I go look for it, I will find it. It was sort of like you had to learn Evernote 5 times if you were on the 5 different devices. And from our standpoint, the biggest challenge that posed was really that it got in the way of our ability to innovate. We couldn't develop new features very quickly. When we did develop them, we couldn't ship them across all the platforms. It was a real challenge, and so we decided to head out and fix that. And that's obviously not a small undertaking. And so when you think about, you know, the 18-month period, it really was a combination of starting to rebuild the clients, starting to refactor some of the services in the cloud and re-architect them. We were pretty public about things like, oh, we moved all the notes from legacy cloud storage from legacy database storage to now horizontally scalable cloud storage. And we did that and nobody noticed, and that was great. But what people don't understand is why it was so important for us to do that. You know, our legacy database storage, there was nothing wrong with the architecture when we did it. You know, like 8 years ago, something like that, for that version. But we got to the point that literally there were some things that if we wanted to do them in the product, it wasn't just difficult, it was impossible. We would literally have had to take the databases offline for a day or more in order to make the change. We couldn't make the change while the databases were running because you couldn't do that and run the service at the same time because we'd run out of room to scale. There's no more headroom left. And those kinds of things are hugely constraining, right? When you say, oh, I want to do this, and someone's like, that would require I change this database, and you can't, so what else can you do?
Yeah.
you end up in situations, as I came aboard, we had a feature we were working on that was really cool. The designs were good, intent was strong, it addressed something that people really wanted. And I watched over like week by week by week, probably in my first 3 months, as that feature kept getting pared back and compromised.
Yeah.
And like, well, we can only do this. And now we can't ship it across all of our clients at the same time. We can kind of roll it out over 6 months or something. And you sit there and you think, well, this is kind of crazy. We now have a feature that is no longer great. It is no longer really what users want. It's kind of what we can do. And it's almost broken by design now because we know what we're shipping and we know it's not going to be a good experience. And so that was a great example of the box that we were in and why we needed to kind of dig our way out of it. And what happens over those 18 months is literally a lot of building of software, a lot of making decisions about, as we looked across all the clients, which all had different interfaces, some slightly different, some hugely different. What were we going to harvest from each client in terms of best of class, how we were going to put them together, putting it in front of users to test it, experiences, like if this is the new experience, does it work, does it not work, redesigning when we didn't get it right. And we've talked about some of that in the behind the scenes. And then also starting, a pre-beta program and a beta program, right? I think we put our very first iOS release into the hands of customers around the holidays last year. So 9 months now we've had pre-beta and beta releases in the hands of customers, poking and prodding and saying, what about this? What about that? Is this working? Looking at bugs, fixing things, trying to get to a place where we could have a release that we had reasonable confidence was going to be well received.
Yeah, definitely. I can imagine seeing like that period, like it must have been really painful, like seeing a feature you want to do and just not being able to sort of do anything with it. But maybe like when it comes to the future, now you do have that framework in place. Like would, like if you were say like get a new feature idea, obviously could be any sort of time scale, but would you say that would be a lot easier to implement now based on the fact that you've got this set up?
Well, one of the ways to think about it is that we now write everything on a single code base. We have simplified some of the stuff, some of the constraints and versions that we have in the background. And the result is that we probably, we literally have to write probably a third as much code as we used to.
Okay, that's pretty good then.
Which means we can go faster. It also means that we're more likely, when there is a bug, to fix it once, fix it everywhere. We are able to get better QA coverage. Like all of those things are true. And my assessment is, as we get this new set of clients out into the market and stabilize them and get them to where obviously they need to be to create that platform for us, I fully expect that we will ship more innovation over the next 12 months than we've shipped in the last 5 years.
Okay, that's interesting.
I mean, and I see it because I already know we have new features in flight that are waiting for the new clients to be deployed so that the features can be deployed behind them. They won't deploy with the new clients. They will stabilize the clients, get them all out and solid, and then we will start rolling features out. But I think, our minimum speed is sort of something major every quarter is the way I think about it, which is not something you've seen from Evernote in a long time. And if we can really get this figured out, we could maybe get to something major twice a quarter or something major 3 times a quarter. We'll have to see. I think we'll be able to see small scale innovation continuously, When I talk about things that are, like, oh, we improved this little corner of the editor, or we made this dialogue better, or we those kinds of things. When I talk about large scale innovation, I talk about features that fundamentally change the way you either think of Evernote or can do something of Evernote, et cetera. Whether that's a new kind of note you can make that you couldn't make before, or a significant new integration that would actually change your workflow and give you more options and things like that. That's the kind of stuff which I think are, really have the chance to make significant differences to our users.
Yeah, that's definitely quite exciting, especially for you guys and the community. We've got a few questions from the community. The first one that I wouldn't know much about because it's more about the technical side, not very technical me. Why did you decide to go with Electron Apps for the desktop clients?
Yeah, this is a popular topic in the community, and I think that goes back to what we talked about before. I talked about the fact that we really had sort of 5 code bases with very little shared between them across our 5 different releases: Mac, Windows, iOS, Android, web. And one of the things we wanted to do was obviously rationalize that code. It's sort of a bit crazy to implement things 5 times. You don't end up with the same experience or the same bugs or the same anything. And we want users to have a consistent experience. And so we knew that meant that we had to choose a framework of some kind to do this. And as soon as you say, okay, we're going to choose a framework, that's when ideology comes out and, technical religion comes out. This is good, this is bad, right? And the answer is there's no such thing as absolute good or absolute bad when it comes to the framework choices. It has to do with what are you optimizing for, and what are your constraints, and what is important to you. And for us, after looking at a whole bunch of options, one of the things that we settled on is JavaScript as a language for us to implement in. And a lot of people, when they hear us say JavaScript, says, oh, you mean you're building a web page? It's like, no, JavaScript is a language. Most people actually don't know that you can use JavaScript to run things in the cloud. You can use JavaScript to build applications. You can do anything like that. So we chose JavaScript as a language so that we could drive that kind of common code approach. And then within that, one of the things we looked at is Electron as a container that we could use JavaScript inside to deliver for the desktop environments, Mac and Windows. And, people have points of view about whether Electron is good or bad. Our experience has been that we're able to do, most everything in it that we want to. I think it is fair to say that anytime you choose a framework, some things get easier and some things get harder, and that's true. You have to invest more sometimes to do things that would be easier in a different framework.
Yeah.
But the things that would, be easier in this framework are then harder in that one. It's always kind of a set of trade-offs. But that's why we went with Electron, and we're getting the performance out of it that we want. We're getting the flexibility out of it that we want, and it's not stopping us in any way, shape, or form from kind of interacting with your computer to have local data stores and all those kinds of things that we want to be able to have for the desktop version so they work offline. So that's why we went that way.
Fantastic. A lot of that stuff sort of made sense to me, so I did follow along.
I do my best.
That's it. It's well explained. And in terms of, obviously, the last 18 months that you've sort of been working very hard on this, the landscape's gotten more competitive. So we've had, the rise of Notion, we've had Roam research really driving a lot of attention. How would you say, how Evernote aiming to keep up with these applications, or is Evernote going to try and keep up with these applications? I guess, what's your approach?
I think one of the things, if you leave a space, uninnovated in as the leader for 4 or 5 years, and the reality is, while we've shipped things for businesses, we haven't actually shipped that much for individual users over the course of the last 4 or 5 years. You can't reasonably expect that someone's not going to show up and actually start to fill some of that gap. And I think, and and I think that's what we're seeing in the market. There's some exciting things happening. You talked about Notion and Rome. I think Bear has done a nice job as well. The way I think about this is, at the end of the day, honestly, 3 years ago, the personal productivity category was a bit tired in terms of whether it was hip and interesting. There was action in it. There just actually wasn't much. Now, what's funny, right, is it wasn't that Notion didn't exist, and it wasn't that Rome didn't exist. It was that they didn't have any visibility, and they hadn't actually started to really grow and become a thing yet. And what I like a lot about what I'm seeing in the market is that each of these entrants has a point of view. Rome has a very definite point of view on what's important. For some people, it's great. I'm not sure if it's a real mass market experience or not, but I absolutely get why it's extremely attractive to a set of people who are trying to achieve a certain set of things around the way, literally, that they think. Notion is also got a really strong point of view about what's important to them. I think a lot of people find that attractive. But we honestly see a lot of people who try moving to Notion and find it too complicated to set up Notion to do all the things that they want. And that's not a knock on Notion. That's just part of where Notion is going and what they believe in. And I think for Evernote, I don't view it as keeping up with Notion or Rome. I think if our agenda is, oh, Notion built it, so we should too. Oh, Rome built it, so we should too. That's probably a bad idea, right? That's not how you build a great product, and it's not how you build a company with its own point of view. What's funny is, if you look at Notion and you look at Rome, a lot of what they are is based on what we were, and then innovating on top of that. And so they've learned from us, because that makes sense. We are the leader in the market. We're the biggest company in the market. We're not leading by innovation. We're just leading in scale at the moment. And so I think as we go forward, it's very reasonable that we should be learning from each of them. Innovation can come from anywhere, right? We can think of it ourselves and be the first to do it. Somebody else can think of it, and we can look at it and go, oh, that's really interesting. That's a good idea. How would that make sense for an Evernote user?
Yeah, okay.
And I think that's really the thing that we need to think about. So I do think over time you will see us, do some things that someone will say, oh, that's like Notion. And we'll do some things and people will say, oh, that's like Rome. But it's just because they're innovating too. And great ideas can come from anywhere. But I think we're not on an agenda that says, oh, we must follow those. We have our own agenda. It's not the same as what theirs is. And it's designed to drive towards the things that we see our users doing with Evernote.
Okay,
right?
yeah.
So we are driven by, what are our users doing with Evernote and how do we make it better?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Oh, how do I make a better version of that one over there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but that doesn't mean we can't get great ideas from them. I mean, you see that in all of software. Company A will do something, and 6 months later, company B will go, oh, that's really working. I should do it too. And so I think you will see some of that naturally in the space. And I think you'll see it in every direction. Right now, because we haven't been innovating, I think people are asking us a lot about the guys who are innovating. I think over the next 12 months, you'll see us doing things that people start saying to those guys, hey, why aren't you doing that thing that Evernote is doing? And the conversation will go on. And the way I look at it is, at the end of the day, this is great for our customers and this is great for the market, because the personal productivity market has kind of gone from a bit tired like 3 or 4 years ago. I mean, important to people who really, really, really focus on productivity, but not having that larger mass market scale awareness going on. And I think we're back to being more wired now, where more people understand, ooh, there's exciting things happening in this market. I should pay attention. For Evernote, our job is to be a part of that conversation by doing exciting things as well. And
Yeah.
I think over the next 3 months and 6 months and 9 months, you're going to see us being a part of that conversation, doing exciting things as well. Will they be the same things Notion and Rome are doing? Almost certainly not, but that's
Yeah.
okay.
Brilliant. Well, you'll keep me in the job, you know. And I guess so what you were, so my question is more about like the innovation side of stuff. Like, if you got yourself in the team, have you got yourself like a department that particularly looks at like new ways of doing stuff as
No.
like previously before, or is it just everyone collectively like bringing ideas to the table?
One of the things that the team at Evernote will know is one of my favorite sayings is that software companies are like sharks. They need to move forward in order to survive. You
Yeah,
know, if sharks aren't swimming, they're not breathing. They actually breathe by swimming.
yeah, yeah,
And I think software companies are the same way. And for us to breathe, we need to move forward. We need to move ahead. We need to innovate. And
yeah,
that doesn't come from 5 people in the corner thinking deep thoughts. That comes from literally everybody in the company thinking about how do we make this better, listening to users, doing research, going out and about. The way the company used to be organized on the inside, I understand, I wasn't here at the time, but the way the company used to be organized is we were focused around, we had a product manager for each of the different platforms, right? So it was a Windows product manager and a Mac product manager and an iOS product manager and an Android product manager and a web product manager. So there's a famous saying in software, which is you ship your org chart. And when you think about that way of managing our products, it sort of makes sense that over time, those 5 products diverged.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
if you have a product manager for each of the 5 products, they each have their point of view. And the most obvious manifestation of this is actually if you picked up the old Android app and you picked up the old iOS app, you would be able to tell that the Android product manager thought tags were more important than notebooks.
yeah,
And the
yeah,
iOS product manager thought notebooks were more important than tags.
yeah, yeah,
We know what's more important, notebooks or tags, is like the age-old Evernote, discussion, and it shall never be resolved, and there will never be a winner because
yeah,
either, as a human, you either like notebooks or you kind of like tags.
yeah. That's it.
There's the different ways that brains work. But we
Yeah,
literally had product managers who were each 2 of those humans. But the result was tags were like super great in Android and kind of like buried under the covers with like 1/4 of the functionality they should on iOS. And
yeah,
that was a direct manifestation of the way we were organized. Today, instead of having product managers for each platform, we've cut the other way and we actually have a product manager for capture. And
okay,
their job
yeah,
is everything that comes in, the editor, the web clipper, like scanner, camera, etc. We have a product manager that's worried about organize, which is,
right,
okay, how do you organize your information, right? That's, notebooks and tags and spaces and stacks
yeah,
and the way you navigate around and how that stuff works. And it might eventually be, for instance, links and backlinks, for instance, if we did something like that. And that person looks across the entire product line to figure out, okay, how do we deliver on this? And so
yeah,
by doing that, that A helps us deliver a more consistent experience, obviously, across the devices. But it also drives this idea, well, who is responsible for innovating in this space? Well,
yeah,
that area of the company is responsible for innovating in that space. And what we do at the higher level strategically is think, well, what set of problems are we focused on next? And then let's make sure that the areas in which each of these focused people are working, let's make sure that they all tie together towards that larger theme we're trying to work towards.
That sounds like a lot of smarter way to do it, and yeah, like
Next 12 months will tell.
yeah, that's it. Yeah. Just a final point before we move on to the Evernote side of stuff a bit further. But this question came up quite a bit, but it's about during that sort of period of time where you're working hard on the sort of foundations of Evernote. A lot of people naturally transition to Notion. What would you say to those people that are looking for some encouragement to return? Obviously, you said there, like the next 12 months are going to be quite exciting, and obviously the stability of the app. Like, what would you say to those people that have maybe shifted, but also sort of have a place in their heart for Evernote?
I think one of the things that's remarkable about Evernote is the relationship that people have with the company, with the brand, and with the product. It's really quite unusual, and it's a huge testament to the sort of lifespan of the company and what's happened over the course of 15 years. So I think the first thing I would say to the folks who have been frustrated and who have left is that I understand, and can't in any way fault them really for doing that. It's our job to not rest on that love that people have for Evernote, but to keep earning it, every month and every quarter. And where we're trying to get back to is to be back in a place where we're not stuck. We opened this by talking about the fact that I thought we were stuck. We couldn't actually ship anything. And we want to get unstuck so that we can ship again. I think if people go and look at the Evernote that we will be shipping over the course of these next, couple of months across all the platforms, they won't see like an Evernote with 75 new capabilities, right? That's not what we were trying to do. What they will see is an Evernote with a better editor, an Evernote with better search, right? An Evernote that is more consistent across all the devices you use it on, right? An Evernote with little things that delight you, whether it's, when I leave Evernote and my phone and I go out to look at something else and I come back, it takes you back to the same place in the note that you were when you left. Yeah. Which is all frustration for people, right? That we take you back to the top of the note instead of the middle of the note. But things like the search is way more interactive. There are lovely little things that delight people, whether it's multicolored highlighters or the new checklist features and things like this. So there's stuff that's in there, but it's kind of small scale innovation and response to some long held questions people will have. But I think the real thing, if you've left Evernote and are thinking about, should I give it a try, is I don't know when the right answer for that is. For some people, it might be in the next couple of months once all these apps are at, take it for a spin. But the other thing is, over the course of the next 6, 9, 12 months, you're going to see us shipping nonstop. And you're going to see more and more things coming out that, if they resonate with what you want out of a device or out of a productivity platform, it's going to be the reason that brings you back. And I think that's, I think the biggest thing I would say is, keep an eye on us, because we're going to start getting continuously better now in a way that you haven't seen from us for years. Yeah. And that's really the name of the game. The way we earn people back is to show that we're once again innovating, that we have a point of view, and that we're advancing that point of view down the road that we're driving down. And I think if we make Evernote a dynamic live product once again, right, that will excite people, and some people will come back. Do I think everybody will come back? Well, not necessarily, no, because maybe for some people, what Roam is doing makes actually more sense for them. And for some people, what Notion is doing makes more sense for them. That's okay. We're going to do what we do really, really well, and we're going to make it better. And if that resonates with what people want from a product, then they'll come back.
Brilliant. That's exciting. And on that sort of topic, I know you can't go too much into detail, but in terms of
ask me about features, okay,
I'm gonna keep productive and exclusive.
Be, but let's do this anyway.
All right. I mean, we could do like charades. You could charade them to us. But I mean, is that a notebook?
3 words.
3 words. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what you can give away.
Well, the answer is I'm not. I mean, I could give away a lot, but I'm not going to give away anything.
Okay.
So here's what I can say. We have we have three really significant advances in the product at various stages of development right now. Two of them are in development. One of them is in design. When I say in development, it means engineering is building. And when I say they're in design, that means that the UX and design people are designing and we're testing with users and making sure the designs are right before we start building. I would expect that we will ship those at roughly the speed of 1 a quarter over the course of the next 6 to 9 months. But am I going to tell you what they are? No.
That's fine.
Tell you what they are.
Text me after.
one of the reasons that I can be confident about the speed that we will move at is because it's not because, I'm guessing about what we will do in 6 months. It's because we already have teams in the company working on this stuff. What they need is they need the new platform to be out across all the clients, so that they can finish the work and deliver them. The work isn't finished. The work is very much ongoing. But it's coming, and each one of those three, and those are like big. We call them boulders, right?
Boulders.
Those are big boulders in terms of creating really large chunks of new foundation for the product. And around that, there'll be lots of little things that we continue to tinker on and ship and improve. But none of those would be things that you would write a press release about. I mean, I'll use multicolored highlighters as an example, because at the one end you say, multicolored highlighters, and you think it's a tiny little thing. But actually adding multicolored highlighters absolutely changed some people's lives in terms of like, I've been waiting for that for years. Where has it been? Now it's there. It's a really big deal. But you would never write a press release, Evernote ships multicolored highlighters. It wouldn't rise to that level of relevance, right?
Okay, got you.
And so I'm talking about like stuff that is, at that kind of press release level. And the things like multicolored highlighters, we'll just keep doing every month. The product will get better every month with little things like multicolored highlighters.
Okay, golden.
Stuff is obviously bigger pushes, and it takes more work to get it out there. But I'm really confident, and that's why I keep talking about I know what the next 12 months is going to look like, and it's because a bunch of it is already defined and in flight. So I know it's coming. It's just a question of when is it ready and when does it ship.
Yeah, fantastic. Sorry, Ian, I've pushed you. I've got an easy question to finish. Don't worry.
All right, you're allowed to ask, and I'm allowed
good.
to answer.
That's true. And the final question is more around like your own use of Evernote. Well, it's sort of a two-part question. It's what's your favorite Evernote feature? And also somebody asked, do you use any analog tools or like an actual notebook or anything alongside your Evernote? Just out of curiosity and nosiness.
Let's do analog tools first.
Okay.
I don't use any analog tools that have any permanence.
Okay.
So I don't have a notebook. I don't have to. I when I was not using Evernote, I did. But back with I had two eras with Evernote, one like 8 years ago, and then one that started like 2.5 years ago. So in between, I was back to notebooks, and now I'm back to Evernote again. And so I don't use actually anything permanent like that keeps a record or whatever. I would argue I use analog tools in that I have lists of things that last like 4 hours that I jot down on pieces of paper, and then I throw them out. Those lists are literally like, that's 3 things I have to do this afternoon. And sometimes I put those on a piece of paper and lean them up in front of me instead of putting them in Evernote. If it's a to-do item that is like for like next week or later this week or next month or whatever, no, that's all in Evernote. I would say the only thing I do that is at this point in in the analog world is to do items over the span of hours. And everything else is in Evernote. So
Fantastic.
I've probably got, I think it's about 1,000 notes that I've generated and kept over the course of the last 2 years.
That's
so
pretty good.
I'm
Yeah,
about a 500 note a year rate.
pumping them out, couple a day. and feature wise, what do you love inside of the app?
I have an answer for that, and it's an iOS centric answer for people who are trying the new iOS app. I think search is now my favorite part of Evernote, and it absolutely didn't used to be my favorite part of Evernote. But I think the new search interface and the interactive ability you have to filter and continue to refine your search, its ability to suggest what you might be looking for the minute you start typing. Actually, from time to time, when you go into the search box and it gives you suggestions, do you want this? It actually gets it before you type anything, which is fairly remarkable. But I find right now search is absolutely my favorite part of Evernote.
Brilliant. Ian, thanks for taking the time out. It's been a good laugh, but also really insightful. And I'm certainly looking forward to how Evernote does over the next 12 months and keeping an eye on all the fun updates. So thank you for taking your time out.
Well, I look forward to talking to you on a regular basis over the next 12 months, because now we're going to have something to talk about.
Yeah, we'll do regular chat.
And that'll be good.
Lovely, jubbly. All right, thanks, Ian. And say hello to everyone when you can actually see them, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Say hello to Zoom for the moment, but
that's it.
Take care, stay healthy,
and
look forward to seeing this when it comes out.
Definitely. Thanks, Ian.
Thanks.